Britain's Punch and Judy politics continues with Margaret Thatcher's portrait. And firstly, I'm going to play you Niall Gardner, who was Margaret Thatcher's bag carrier, who is now a political commentator for the right wing. And afterwards, you will hear from the actual artist, the portrait artist, who painted the picture and knows all about its history. You can decide which one's telling you the truth. I know which one is telling the truth, but from a personal point of view, I would certainly take down that picture of Margaret Thatcher if I was living in number 10. I wouldn't want to look at that every day.
I'll show you today what a disgraceful decision by Keir Starmer. It demonstrates what a petty-minded individual he is. After all, this was a portrait commissioned, in fact, by Gordon Brown when he was Prime Minister, who welcomed Lady Thatcher to Downing Street. And now you have Keir Starmer, really a far-left socialist, a political pygmy in every respect compared to Margaret Thatcher, who was a towering figure. Starmer banishing Thatcher's portrait from Downing Street. What's an absolute disgrace, and it demonstrates just how low this Labour government is stooping. And I do think actually that Keir Starmer is the most disastrous British Prime Minister of the modern era in every respect. Yet another appalling decision taken by the new PM, who was of course only backed by around a third of the British voting public, and already he's taking on the memory of Margaret Thatcher. A big mistake, I think, in every respect.
OK, Niall, but in his defence, he has only had 50-odd days, and it is his house at the moment. It's his office. Surely he can do what he wants.
Well, of course, he can do what he likes, but this demonstrates, I think, a real lack of judgment. It demonstrates complete arrogance on the part of Keir Starmer, and a real lack of respect for a truly great Prime Minister who won 3 general elections in a row with a magnificent record. Keir Starmer behaves in an incredibly arrogant fashion. I'm concerned about Starmer on so many fronts, including his sort of woke authoritarian instincts, his complete lack of seriousness about dealing with illegal migration, for example, the looming tax rises on the horizon. I think the damage that Starmer and his Labour government will do to Britain will be absolutely immense. Margaret Thatcher would be horrified, I think, by what is happening today, the state of the country under Labour. This decision by Starmer, of course, to remove Thatcher's portrait says everything we need to know about Keir Starmer, about his lack of class character and his poor judgment.
Starmer's entitled to do exactly what he wants with the pictures in the house that he currently inhabits. The portrait, when it was commissioned, was actually commissioned for Downing Street. It was the first portrait of a Prime Minister ever to be commissioned for number 10. And in the early stages, and certainly when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, it hung in a vestibule. And it was only until David Cameron was Prime Minister that the portrait was hung in what was Margaret Thatcher's former office. She was very aware of the honour that was being paid to her. I was determined to get it right. And I really her at every stage to pass comment.
And she wanted the handbag in, didn't she?
Yes, well, that was a very late edition because she'd come here to the studio, I thought, ready to sort of sign off on the portrait, which was, I felt, practically complete. But she was a little perturbed. Something wasn't quite right. Something was missing. And then she suddenly realised that the handbag wasn't there. Well, we all realise now that it was a central part of her armour. And so the bag was produced. I painted it in close to her. And I think everyone, including Lady Thatcher herself, was very happy.
She still remains an incredibly divisive figure, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. And I think that's part of her as a fascinating person. I never talked politics with her, interestingly enough. I think she felt very relaxed in my company because we talk about home cooking and our childhoods. And in fact, I felt it rather important to learn more about if you want the soft side of the Iron Lady. And I like to think that comes through in the portrait.
Absolutely.
President famously said that she had the eyes of Caligula and the lips of Monroe. Bearing that in mind, I like to think that I've added that sort of extra human quality to her that made her, I think, the rather remarkable person that she was.
Back at the farm this week, we wormed the cattle and we had a surprise calf. We thought we'd finish calving, but we had an extra one. And good news for Ruby, our 13-year-old Labrador who's suffering from bone cancer and arthritis. She had a miracle jab at the vets, which has really revitalised her, and she is really much happier and the pain really seems to have eased. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and comment below, let me know what you think.